Greetings to our kings, queens, and everyone in between. Welcome to Melanin Muses.
Mindful knowledge, healing heart. We are your muses.
Cleo
And Calliope, but you can call me Callie. We're here to give you a safe space to open your mind
and to heal your heart while adding a dash of melanin flavor.
Disclaimer: we are not legal, mental, or health professionals. Although we're actively researching the topics we discuss and fact-checking our resources, please note that we are only giving our opinions and not professional advisory.
If you wish to get professional advice, please seek out the help of a certified professional or therapist. Let us begin. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the next episode of Melanin Muses with Cleo and
Callie. Hi everybody.
Hey, we hope you are well. And just to give a trigger warning, today we will be talking about the topic of body image. So that encompasses things like about, if I can even English correctly today, things pertaining to plastic surgery, weight loss, maybe anorexia, just a whole shebang in terms of body image, both toxic and positive body images, and body imagery. So yeah, there's your trigger warning. If that topic is something very sensitive to you, please be forewarned. These are the topics we will cover. So yeah, let's get started with our quote of the day.
Quote of the day.
Woohoo! We have a quote from Serena Williams. Love her. Serena Williams. She said, "Since I don't look like every other girl, it takes a while to be okay with that, to be different. But different is good. But different is good."
Mm-hmm.
Gotta say, I love me some Serena. How about you?
That woman is the embodiment of strength, grace, power, and femininity as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. Oh my God. And the fact, like, since we're talking about body image in particular, she has such like you said, a strength to her, especially because she doesn't have what the society deems as a very feminine body because of the muscles that she carries and how fit she is. But I'm like, why is that? Like, have you seen all the comments, especially from men, saying, "Oh, she's more of a man than me," and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, y'all just jealous because she can probably knock you out with one punch, and y'all weak as fuck.
Yep, exactly. I think that's one of the biggest issues people have when they come after someone else's physique is secretly they wish they had that physique too. And since they can't have it, they're taking the sour grapes approach. If I can't have it, I'm going to make fun of you for having it, make you feel bad, make myself feel better. Not a way to be, guys. Not a way to be.
Nah, just like you're just airing out your insecurities, fam, and we see them, and it's not cute. That stuff is not cute at all. So watch yourself. But anywho, in terms of body image, it feels like in today, it's been this way for years and years and years. But society, and we're speaking strictly, like I guess in this episode, we can focus on how it fits for women, and we can also have another episode tailored to men. With the body image, like for
Definitely.
you guys, that's a whole nother conversation. But specifically because we are women, especially women of color, in terms of body image, I feel like this is something that is very close to our hearts, because society seems to deem women the most iconic and most beautiful woman in America is supposed to be white, thin, blonde hair, blue eyes, and then that what is deemed not pretty is Black women. There's actually been studies shown, I'm not sure if you've heard about it, you probably have, where they did a test, they did an inquiry of a variety of people. Of the statistics showed how the most desirable woman was white and the least desirable was Black woman, and then the other people of color in between. But we are the less desirable, especially among dating apps,
Goodness.
We're next to, I think, Asian men.
Oh boy.
Asian men or Black men, like that's at the level that we are of desirability. And It's crazy how even if you look online for beautiful women, you will see just white women. You won't really see Black women in the search results for label of beautiful. And they actually did a test in terms of children. A little Black girl. I don't know if you saw it, but they asked this little girl. She was Black. She was a very dark, a little chocolate girl.
The
I don't
doll
like to use
test back in the
it.
1950s.
Not even a doll test.
Oh,
There was a piece of paper. It was a piece of paper, and it was like five drawings of a little girl, and each drawing was colored in a different color. There was the light white, and there was a dark chocolate, which was like the girl, and then there was a couple of shades in between. And the therapist or the psychologist asked the little girl, and she's just like, "Hey, show me the good-looking girl." And a little girl pointed to the white girl. And then, who is the ugly girl? And the little girl pointed to the drawing that was colored in very dark that actually resembled what she looked like. And she's like, well, why do you think that is the good looking and that one is the ugly girl? And she said, the good looking girl, she's white. That's why she's beautiful. And then the dark brown skin girl, she's like, oh, she's black. She's black. That's why she's ugly. And this little girl was probably 5 years old.
ugh.
And it's being drilled into her that her skin tone's ugly. And it's crazy how just as women, not only women, but women of color, we're taught almost from birth that we are less than and we are not the ideal and we are not beautiful because we are not white women. So not only do we have society's standards of beauty, you have to be thin, you have to be not only thin but curvy, but this, but that. It's all kind of contradicting information. You have to have this perfect Barbie style, but you also can't be Black, even if you do have this. But if you do happen to be Black, you're only worthy as a sex object, but you have no other worth. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I 100% agree with that. I was looking at a Psychology Today article that was discussing how culture dictates the standard of beauty. And generally, when you see like Sports Illustrated swimsuit editions, it's not necessarily the swimsuit that they're focusing on, it's how the swimsuit fits on the individual. And the models that they normally select for these swimsuit editions are models that are normally on the lighter end of the spectrum as far as their skin tone is concerned. They're tall, they're slender, they have long flowing hair most times. And when you think of that description as a standard of beauty, what's desirable in society, there's only a small portion of the population that fits that, which sets up an unrealistic expectation for everyone else who is an outlier when it comes to their level of desirability. If you are a woman who may be, I don't know, shorter in stature, you may not be seen as desirable as someone who is taller. Um, and it's a very damaging perspective, particularly when we watch movies. Most of our Disney princesses are slender women, young women with long flowing hair,
Yeah.
big eyes of various colors. But I think people have probably touched on this before, but you know, Princess Tiana is the only Princess Tiana, Pocahontas, Moana, and I'll say Mulan in this instance are the princesses of color. And oh, Jasmine. Forgot about Jasmine. Jasmine's in there too, but they all have a very similar look to them. They are women of color, but they all have a very similar perspective. Long hair, big eyes, slender frames. There's a pattern developing. What do you think about this pattern?
That pattern is just showing like these little girls that you, in order to be beautiful or princess material, you have to be, like you were saying, a very slender figure, very slender shape, super small waist, big hips. You have to it's just that you have to look a certain way in order to be accepted. And I don't think it's a healthy thing to put on kids. Like, show princesses of different sizes. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like for me, you know me, I love me some Disney. I
Mm.
love Disney. I can probably just quote every single Disney movie, you know. And we can't be forgetting Esmeralda either. My bae Esmeralda. She's
Oh
not a
my.
princess, but she's amazing. Um, I like, as adults, we can kind of separate ourselves from this and kind of acknowledge like, yeah, that's not realistic. But with kids, they see that and they're like, I have to look like that, you know, and that's something that we should be cognizant of, that not every person has to be super tiny like that. And I think that's something that's a separate conversation that we should have with our kids in terms of watching these movies and be like, yeah, so these are princesses, whatnot, they're beautiful, but they also, we all come in all shapes and sizes. So that's just something in and of itself that we have to talk about. Just the portrayal of women in the media. Like there's a concrete difference between films and shows that are directed by women in comparison to the shows and films directed by men. And you can kind of see these in terms of the costumes and the wardrobe that the women are in. Just look, let's just look for it. Like the next time you watch a show, like keep an eye out for how the women are dressed, and that can kind of give you a heads up of like who's directing it.
Mhm.
I can't think of I had an example in my head. I think it was someone's portrayal of like Harley Quinn, like her first
Mhm.
outfit was super scandalous for no, like some ungodly reason. Like there was no reason that her outfit was that just like uncomfortable. But then in the next film the actress was in, it was actually taken over by a woman and she was more clothed and it was more comfortable for her to move in.
Yes.
Like,
And
did you
it's
hear about that or was that just me?
no, I heard about it. And the funny
Okay,
thing
cool.
about that phenomenon, there is a word for that, and it's called the male gaze in cinema. And that's
Yes.
it's how uh, these films are portrayed as what would appeal to men, or how men view the world scope uh, in their perspective. And most times, when you look at maybe action movies, like I'm talking like the 80s and 90s action movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger and uh, like Sylvester Stallone, you'll see things like men like with hard, glistening abs and they're rough and tough and they're going to beat everybody up. But then when you see the women in these movies, they're like naked, their breasts or their buttocks are out and they're wearing barely anything. And that's because that gaze is meant to draw the eye of men. And not to discredit women that are attracted to other women, but those movies were made for heterosexual cisgender males. So when you when you think about it from that perspective, as you were saying, when women create films, we're more tasteful in our portrayal of how women are through our eyes, or how we wish to be viewed, rather than how it's viewed by someone who is desiring us.
Yeah, definitely when you were talking about the male gaze, that's, yeah, I've definitely heard of that before. And it's sad. Like there's times I'm watching movies and I'm just like, why was she put in stiletto heels for a fighting scene? Like she would be found out in 2 seconds. You know, that doesn't make any sense to me. Um, and even just in the, like just going off of like advertisements and the things we see on a daily basis, and like how majority of models are just like super, super thin. And even like can be a whole nother podcast, but the fact about how the clothes in America is not constant. So you can go to one store and you're a size 10, and you can go to another store and you're a size 16, and another store you're a size 14, another store you're a size 8. There's no consistency. And then we put such a emphasis on these numbers, it really screws up with our psyche and our mentality of like, oh my God, I got up a number, instead of, oh, this is the number of clothes I fit. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so fat, I have to lose numbers. And it's interesting because formerly living in America and now actually currently living in Korea for almost 3 years, it's kind of like seeing the difference in the body image portrayal, especially of women in the Korean culture, is crazy. Because being a Black woman or biracial Black woman living in Korea, I'm already a minority in America, but Jesus, here in Korea, I'm just like a dot. You can find me in the sea. I'll just raise my hand and you'll see me. You know what I mean? And like, it's just crazy. The body standards here, like one, Korea is known as the plastic surgery capital of the world. They actually spend over $1 billion a year to attract medical tourists. And their ideal state of beauty is big eyes, small defined nose, small lips, and a V-shaped face. And their standard of beauty is the ideally to be 162 centimeters tall. For us Americans who don't do centimeters, is 5'3", and then 42 kilograms, which is 92.5 pounds. So
At 5'3"?
at 5'3" and 92.5 pounds. Mind you, I had a girlfriend of mine back when I studied here before. She was probably 4'10", 4'11",
Oh,
90 pounds easily. Like I could lift her up with one arm. She had a flat stomach too. She was very, very skinny. She still said, oh my God, I'm fat and I need to lose weight. That's how severe the body image is here in Korea, because even someone so small still believe they need to lose weight. I'm like, if you lose anything else, you're going to disappear. Girl, you look beautiful. Like, and this is not trying to skinny shame or anything like that. It's just saying that here it's just so emphasized that you have to be so skinny. Like even I had to get a medical checkup for my job here in Korea, and I had to go with a coworker because my Korean wasn't very good. And I asked her to ask the nurse, I'm like, yo, can you get my weight for me so I can just know? And she looked at it, and before she told me, I saw her cringe before she told me. And mind you, she was actually probably this ideal weight, like maybe 90 something pounds, 5'3", 5'4". She was a very small woman. And then she looked at my weight, cringed, and told me like she felt sorry for me, of like, oh, you're is 66 kilograms. And for those who don't know, that was probably like 140 something pounds. Now I'm like 68 kilograms, which is like almost like 150. And just for height reference, I'm about 5 foot. And for here in Korea, that's considered overweight. Even though being a Black female, I'm a curvy girl. So most of that's in my butt, in my thighs. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, well, okay, but you didn't have to cringe like that. She's like, you weigh that much? You don't look it. I'm like, eh. And it's crazy because even my old personal trainer, when I went to him, he's like, you have to lose weight. Like you're too fat, essentially. For Korean standards, I had to lose weight. I had to at least lose like 9 kilograms, which is about 20 pounds. He's like, you have to lose 20 pounds because you're too big. And he's like, yeah, you can only eat like chicken, bacon, sweet potato, and eggs.
Bacon.
Yeah, it was really random. He's like, yeah, and then vegetables, just eat those things and that's it. And it was a very shaming feeling to have like people look at you, but also be like, well, you have to fit this Korean box, and even when everyone would interact with me, she's like, oh, Africa. And then, oh, your hair, is that a perm? When I would wear it natural, because my hair is like naturally curly. But everyone who would ask, oh, is that a perm? I'm like, no, this is natural hair. Just add water. I'm a chia pet. Like, what's a chia pet? I'm like, American joke. Don't worry. But it's interesting that since I don't fit the norm already as not being Korean, it's still kind of like I'm supposed to fit that body type standard. Or like even this one male actually had grabbed my stomach and it's like, when are you going to the gym? And that was after an intimate moment, like literally right after. It's like, so when are you going to the gym? I'm like, what?
Wow.
Well, so it being like any advice to those looking to visit here, it's very beautiful country for nature and stuff, but you have to have a strong mental health and a very strong emotional sense of self to live here, because it really can affect your sense of body self-love and self-care, because it's been a struggle. Like even still I struggle with trying to just love myself, the body that I'm in, especially with this quarantine 15 stuff that's happening, because trust and believe, I did gain some quarantine weight. But it's being in an environment where you have to constantly see literally just like almost a carbon copy of like small, petite, size 0 women who are, it's like literally you see plastic surgery posters everywhere, from the subway to the bus to just posters along walls. It's highly advertised. Parents will be promising their kids, oh, you can get double eyelid surgery once you graduate as a present, because the standard is to look more European. You know what I mean? Like, that's the goal, is to be as white as possible. There's skin bleaching agents and a lot of the cosmetics and skin creams, because they want to look whiter. Even in the summer when it's scorching heat, people will be wearing long sleeves and be carrying around umbrellas because they don't want to get darker, because of them dark equals bad. And it's just, it was shocking. It was very, very shocking to kind of drop in here, to be put into that pool, because even the other day it was kind of like, it was hormonal and just feeling frumpy, having like the baggy hoodie and the sweats, and like, I'm just gonna have a day in a cafe. And then you see like all these girls who are dressed up, full makeup and all like size 0s, just like prattling around. And then inside my brain was instantly like, oh my God, I feel so ugly and gross, and she's so pretty. Why can't I be like that? And it's like, I physically had to fight my own mind to like, no, you are fine. You are good in yourself, love yourself. You are not them. That is not who you need to aspire to be. They are beautiful in their own way, but so are you. Like, you cannot put yourself to that standard, because that does not apply to you, nor should you want it to be, you know? And I feel that's something that we as women have to fight all the time. Is like the images we see in these posters and in the movies and all that, these celebrities who starve themselves and models who starve themselves in order to look a certain aesthetic, that shouldn't be the way what we aspire to. Because if you ask a lot of them, they are not happy with having to starve themselves to fit that particular body weight, like the body dysmorphia and stuff like that. Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, just trying to absorb that, because I can only imagine how jarring that is. Just being surrounded by these images, not even subliminally. Like, this is in your face, overt bombardment of, this is how you should look. This is how you will be accepted. And this is how it needs to be. And I feel that way, like being here in America, I think that comes to us in the form of social media. We do have more diversity as far as the cultural pool of physical appearances, but on social media, there seems to be this new trend with the Instagram models and influencers, where they all seem to have a very similar aesthetic. But it's kind of circling back to what we were talking about before, about how there is a pattern that's developing. It's women that have a large frame, as in like their chests are large, their hips and their butt are large, and their thighs too, but their waist is impossibly small. Or they have a very small upper body, but a larger lower body. Impossibly so in many cases. Some people are genetically blessed with having wide hips and a smaller upper body, or having a large bust and hourglass figure to match. But many of us don't have that aesthetic naturally. And we do have to work very hard to achieve that aesthetic, either through hard work and exercise and dieting, or through cosmetic surgery. And if that is your choice, to change your physical appearance to represent what you feel is more beautiful, by all means, it's your body and you can do what you wish with it. But please understand that it has to be your choice, something that you decide because it's something that you want, not because you want to emulate how someone else looks. And with that said, I had a moment recently. I have a personal trainer that I use via Zoom. And I noticed recently I wanted to take progress photos. Now, also, when you look at Instagram and all other versions of social media, most pictures are touched up, either through filters or Photoshop or, expert lighting. There is some
Yes.
manipulation of the image to be more appealing or more natural in appearance, but it's been doctored in some way or another. That goes
Mm-hmm.
with poses as well. Poses and angling is within that realm too.
Yes.
So I have become adept at my angles. I know my lighting. I know my how to pose so that I get the silhouette and the aesthetic that is flattering to my body type. Having to take progress photos of just straightforward arms by your side, frontal, side, and back was a jarring experience for me because for the first time I looked at my body as it is and not as I wanted it to be. And
Mm-hmm.
my initial thought was to take that photo and start circling and highlighting the places that I wanted to change. But I had to snap myself out of that because it reminded me of a story from back when I was in college with sororities, where the hazing process was when you had freshmen that wanted to join a certain sorority. They would have the girls line up in their underwear, and the upperclassmen would come with Sharpies and start to circle areas on the girls' bodies that needed improvement for them to
No.
essentially fit in to the sorority house. And that is exactly what my brain was doing to me as I looked at my progress photos. And that was a very hard realization, a very humbling experience to not compare myself to the other women that I see on Instagram that get, more attention. I'm not seeking attention, but it's nice to have attention. And knowing that looking at my body the way it was, I would not get the attention that I wanted. I would also not feel good about how I looked because of how drastically different my body is and what I wanted to change. But the goal of fitness should not be to achieve a certain aesthetic, in my opinion. It should be to achieve a certain level of ability and functionality. The aesthetic is a natural byproduct of the hard work that you produce in that journey. And when I started to think about how far I've come since I started my personal training, a year ago when the pandemic first started, I noticed that my lung capacity had severely dropped because I used to be an incredibly active person with doing 2 days a week of mixed martial arts and walking a good 20 miles every week for my job, and then eating various foods and being very mindful of what I put into my body. But when the pandemic hit, I went straight into a sedentary lifestyle where I was sitting a good 8 hours a day. No, I'm lying, a good 12 hours a day, and then going to sleep and only waking
Life.
right? And eating essentially what I felt like because, I was upset with being stuck inside, gaining that quarantine 15. But it was when the lung capacity or the lack thereof started to bother me that I knew that I needed to do something because I couldn't function that way. And when I first started working out, it was a devastating realization that simple movements like doing jumping jacks left me winded and just struggling to catch my breath. That's unheard of in my lifestyle. Now, today, that's not a problem anymore because of hard work and consistency and just staying the course and trusting the process that and having a lot of support. But I know a lot of people don't have that. So when you have Instagram telling you how you should look and you don't have anyone else to kind of combat that thought process, it's a very difficult battle to fight alone. What do you think?
I think you actually touched on some really good points. So, number one, thank you for being so vulnerable and actually like releasing that the thought pattern that you had in terms of the before and after pictures. And I think that I think you made a great point in terms of the before and after pictures, simply because that a majority of the time we don't actively acknowledge that these photos are edited, especially when you're talking about Instagram models and things of that nature. All these photos are edited, they're touched up, there's filters galore. We're pretty much a filter nation, no matter where you are. And especially living in Korea as well, oh my God, you cannot walk 2 centimeters without someone being on their phone or taking a selfie or having their, like, it's a whole thing where like girls have their boyfriends just constantly being their personal photographers and taking all these photos of them in like different places. It's always for the Instagram, always for the gram, always for the gram. So we become like a selfie obsessed world in this sense. And I think that's what also, like you said, contributes to the body image view of today. And we forget to recognize that filters are placed on these images, and we do have to find our best angle to make us look smaller, and that these aren't accurate representations of what the real world is. And we might be aware of that logically, but emotionally, when we're receiving and ingesting all of these images, we just we take it in as, oh my God, they're so pretty, they're gorgeous, they must be like this all the time. And many of us don't have that cognitive awareness to sit back and be like, wait, no, like this isn't how the person is. Like they don't wake up like this every day. Love you, Beyonce, but not everyone wakes up like fabulous with a full face of makeup and constantly like a size like X, Y, and Z, and they look a certain way. We don't sit back and we don't acknowledge that nobody's waking up in a perfect, whatever perfect really is in our society, perfect look, to look like the sex kitten that we're meant to be as women. And that's very damaging to the ego, very damaging to the psyche. And it's very great that you were able to have that humbling experience. So in terms of like being able to recognize and like stop yourself from just like, oh, I shouldn't be analyzing which parts of my body I want to change, rather than I want to accept and love my body in its entirety and its complexity, and that was a very great moment to have. Like, wait, no, I gotta cut off this toxic mentality of I have to look a certain way. My first instinct is, oh, I gotta change this, I gotta change that with a Sharpie, whatever. But like, no, you know what? My body is beautiful, no matter what shape or size it is. I love it. It's delicious. It's luscious. You know what I mean? So I think that was a very great realization to come to, because that's something I'm definitely going through as well. Like when I look in the mirror, I've noticed it's taken a couple years of like, it definitely taken a couple years of self-help work and book reading and just a lot of personal work to be able to look at myself in the mirror and not feel disgusted, and not feel like, oh, I'm too fat or I'm too ugly. Like now I can look and be like, hey, I'm cute. Hey, look at you, boo. I would date you. Oh, you my boo. I see you. Hey, boo, over there. Like I can now look at myself and not feel disgusted. Like, you know what? I'm a little bit more curvy than I would like, but you know what? That's more to me to love. And hey, I'm short. I'm the perfect cuddle buddy size. Hey. So my belly is a perfect pillow. Come cuddle me. You know what I mean? So, and also like to touch on the fact that you also mentioned embracing the aesthetic, like the aesthetic comes as a byproduct of the exercising in terms of exercising for health, and the aesthetic is a byproduct. I do think that's a healthier way of thinking about exercising, instead of saying like, hey, I need to lose 50 pounds to look good in the bikini. It's like, hey, I want to lose 50 pounds so I can breathe easier, so I can move around easier, so I can feel more energy, feel healthy. And the aesthetic, oh yeah, I look good in the swimsuit. It's just that byproduct of working for that particular goal. And that's something that I really love, because I have noticed that I had a negative relationship when it came to food, and then when it came to exercising, and it was almost like shameful in a sense. And then coming to Korea is when I started discovering like all of these body issues and self-esteem issues, because I'm surrounded by it, so it really forces you to take a look at yourself, unless you get lost, amassed, all of this other stuff that's happening around you. And it's interesting because the very first personal trainer that I went to here, he focused on, you need to lose weight because you have too much fat. You have to lose about 9 kilograms, which is about 10, 20 pounds. You have to lose X amount of pounds because there's just too much fat. You got to lose weight. And then now that I have these new trainers, I've changed places because I lost all motivation to go there. The new trainers, like in the beginning, they sat me down and he was talking to me. He's like, so what is your goal? I'm like, oh, well, maybe 20 pounds, whatever. Because my instinct is like the number. I have to lose the number because that's what all I've been told. But then he said, listen, that's not a healthy way to go about it. I'm like, wait, what? He's like, listen, don't worry about the number. The number is not important because anyway, muscle weighs more than fat, whatever. Don't worry about the number. How do you want to feel? What is your goal? Like your ideal type of clothes you want to wear, or how do you want to feel? That will be your goal for what we're going to do here. And it really shocked me to hear this, especially coming from a male trainer, just to tell me, just how do you want to feel, instead of, oh, you have to lose 20 pounds to look good. Or even when it came to the food plan, he's like, hey, here's your diet schedule, whatever, but don't think of it as a diet. If you want to go out with some friends, have a pizza or something, that's perfectly fine. If you want to eat some cake, eat a cookie, that's fine. Just let us know and be honest about that. That way we can adjust your workout accordingly. So that way we can compensate for like the extra caloric intake and whatnot. And the way he was explaining it to me gave me the incentive. Oh, I want to go back to you because you're not making me feel shamed to see a number on the scale. You're making me feel encouraged and not feel ashamed for eating something that I enjoy, and just learning how to do it in moderation, and then just exercising in turn. Like, hey, if I'm gonna eat 2 pieces of cake, cool. So I'm just gonna exercise the extra cake off, in a more healthier manner and not just feeling ashamed about it. So I think that's something that we should probably introduce more into when it comes to diet and exercise. But that's a thriving industry. They thrive off of the insecurity, especially of women, men too, but they thrive off of us feeling shameful and bad. That's why there's all the diet pills. There's all like whole lean cuisine, which actually isn't good for you, and all these other frozen dietary foods, because we don't learn how to properly live a healthier lifestyle and just enjoy it, instead of like, oh, you have to only eat carrots. Nothing wrong with carrots. I love me some carrots, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. You touch, and for like, just for like a little behind the scenes fun, guys, like if this doesn't sound like it's flowing, it's because we had to stop this dang podcast so many times because of the noise in my hallway. I was screaming little humans going up and down the halls. We literally had to take like an hour break before being able to record the rest of this. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. But I promise it will flow better next time. But this is fun regardless. I hope you guys got a lot of great content out of this, great feedback, funny John's. See, I can't even English anymore.
That's hilarious. I think we're doing a great job of expressing the duality of our personalities here.
We can be very intellectual and smart and inquisitive, and then there's just like, no, my brain's just done.
Tired.
Yeah, we both tired. It's late for her, and then my brain's just like, nah, fam. And this is just my other accent coming out. Any hoozles. As we send y'all off, are there any final words that you want to give to our listeners in terms of body image and things of that nature?
Well, I'm going to reference my favorite Instagrammer. She's a positive influence on my life. She is a Black female therapist, and she has a saying that if you have a negative thought that comes into your mind for any reason, not just about your body image, if you're thinking, I'm not good enough, counter that thought by saying, I am deserving. I can learn to love myself more every day. I give myself permission to love who I am, not who I think I should be.
Ooh, so deep. Oh, right in the soul. Right in the depths of my dark soul. And that's definitely something that I think a lot of us need to remember, men, women, and everyone in between alike, is love ourselves, our bodies for who and what they are, because of the fact that we only get one body. We have one body, we have one existence, we have one life. And if we don't love it, who else will? You know, like obviously other people, we have family, we have friends, we have people who can love us. But if we don't learn how to love ourselves, it's very difficult to be able to receive love from others. You know, trust and believe, I know that from experience. So definitely know that you are a treasure. You are beautiful, handsome, gorgeous, freaking fabulous, A through Z. I will do the snap even though you can't see it. You are absolutely wonderful, whoever is listening to this. And don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Because just remember, if someone trying to tell you, okay, my hood gonna come out. If someone's trying to tell you that you ugly or you fat or you whatever, this type of stuff, listen, hunty, listen. They're only jealous because you're so freaking bomb. Because no one will take their time out of their day to comment something negative about you if they weren't jealous of you. So remember, you are so freaking fabulous. Your light is shining so bright that other people are intimidated by your greatness. And know that you are freaking fantabulous. And we love you. We do. And you are freaking amazing. So on that note, thank you for listening to our podcast about body image. And we will see you next time. This is Cleo.
And this is Callie.
See you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Hey everyone, Cleo here. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode. If you like what you heard, please remember to subscribe, like, and hit the little notification bell down below to stay in the loop for future episodes. And we would also love to hear from you down in the comments below. We look forward to catching you in the next episode. See you then. Goodbye!